If a broken watch knew your future, would you listen? This is the true-to-life fiction of Sarah James. A man with an empty wallet, a dusty road, and one question. What is life for? Stay for the mystery, the twists, and the answer that might change yours. Keywords: meaning of life story, mystery audio, broken watch, dusty road, empty wallet, existential thriller, narration. His name was Sarah James. His mother gave him the name on purpose. She said the first Sarah in the family survived a winter that killed the rest of the street. She said names can be shelters. He learned to carry the oddness like a coat you never quite grow into. He worked nights at a loading dock. He moved boxes that weighed more than his questions. He slept in a small room above a grocery where fruit went sweet at 2 in the morning, then bad at 2 in the afternoon. He had a broken watch, an empty wallet, and a window full of dust. The watch had stopped at 3:17. It had belonged to his father. His father left when he was 7. No note, just the watch on the table. No tick, no explanation. The watch said time could stop and still be heavy. He carried the watch in his pocket. He carried the wallet in the other. Some nights he took the watch out and set it under the lamp. He would listen. Silence. The kind that made you hear yourself too clearly. He turned 35 and felt older than his shoes. He checked his bank app. He scrolled until the app said there was nothing left to scroll. He laughed without sound. He clicked log out as if it fixed anything. There was a road beyond the loading dock. Trucks rolled in on it and rolled away. Day made it look ordinary. Night turned it into a line that went somewhere important. The road grew a skin of dust that clung to everything, even thoughts. He looked at it through the chain link and felt the urge to follow it on foot. He thought of his mother's hands. They smelled of onions and machine oil. She had said, find work, find a bed, keep moving. But she had also said, when it goes quiet inside you, go listen. The quiet had turned into a pressure in his chest. He packed a backpack, 2 shirts, socks, a book with a cracked spine he hadn't finished, a pen, the wallet empty, the watch broken, a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. He left a note for the landlord. Gone to look for something. We'll settle after. He stepped onto the dusty road and started walking east because the sun was there. He passed the last streetlight and felt the dark accept him. The air tasted like hot metal. He kept his eyes on the line where the black turned gray. At sunrise, he reached a gas station with a flickering sign. The cashier had a face that said he had seen every stranger who had ever passed. Sarah asked for water. He looked at the wallet. The cashier shrugged and slid a plastic cup his way. Tap, he said. It's clean today, Sarah drank. The water tasted of pennies and forgiveness. He stood by the ice chest and checked the watch. 3:17. He wanted to throw it across the asphalt. He put it back in his pocket like a promise he didn't believe. He kept walking. Heat pooled on the road and made the far things ripple. He tried to call his mother. The number rang into a voicemail box that had not been set up. She had moved 2 years ago. Left no address. He had not chased her then. He felt that choice now. He came to a split in the road. One sign said the name of a city he couldn't afford. The other had a name he did not know. The unknown felt cleaner. He took the right fork. Wind pushed dust along and drew a veil over his footprints. That made him nervous. He wanted proof he was real. At noon, a chartreuse bus he hadn't seen coming stopped beside him. Its door hissed open. The driver leaned out. White hair, sunglasses, no expression. You, Sarah? The driver asked. Sarah froze. He nodded. The driver tapped the watch on his own wrist. You're late, he said. How late? The driver looked past him as if time had a face over Sarah's shoulder. 18 years, he said. Maybe more. Sarah stepped back. Who are you? Message man, the driver said. I have something for you. The driver held up a paper envelope. It was gray with age. The corner had a water stain like a continent. There was no stamp. Just a single word written in clean, firm letters. Sarah. He reached for it. The driver pulled it away. Inside the bus, he said. Not out here. Why? The driver smiled without teeth. Because the road listens. The door stayed open. Heat and diesel fumes swirled into the cabin. Sarah put his foot on the bottom step. The bus frame vibrated like a throat clearing. He felt the empty wallet against his hip, the watch against the other. He looked once at the fork behind him. The bus smelled like old leather and rain that never arrived. He climbed the 2 steps. The door closed with a sound like a verdict. The bus was almost empty. A woman in a blue coat slept with her head against the glass. A pair of kids swapped a deck of cards silently. The driver held the envelope like a waiter with a check he didn't want to deliver. They rolled forward. The bus groaned. The road unscrolled under them, a strip of brittle film. Sarah sat behind the driver. He could see the man's neck. The skin had the same map of small scars sailors get from sun and salt. The driver handed the envelope back without looking. The paper felt dry and deliberate. Sarah turned it over. No seal. He slid a finger under the flap. The fiber resisted, then gave. Inside there was a single sheet folded twice. He unfolded it and saw 10 words written in block letters. When your watch starts, do not go home. Go west, no signature. The ink had not bled. It looked recent but carried a smell like a basement after rain. He flipped the paper. Nothing on the back. He held it against the window to see if there was watermarked truth. The paper stayed plain. He stared at the watch in his palm. 3:17. The second hand was a small steel bone. It did not move. He waited. The bus counted miles under its breath. The driver hummed a slow tune that sounded like work. Sarah slid the letter into the empty wallet. The wallet didn't seem so empty now. It had a task. He touched the crack across the leather. He thought of the crack in his own sense of self and wondered if carrying a letter made a person into a person. The bus stopped at a diner with a faded sign that promised coffee and eggs. Everyone got off except the sleeping woman. The driver said, 15 minutes. Sarah followed the kids in. The diner smelled like grease that had told stories to every pan in the place. He took a stool at the counter. A waitress with tired eyeliner poured coffee. You look like you're seeing a ghost, she said. I got a letter, he said. That'll do it. I didn't know letters still found people. They do when they want to. He smiled. How much for the coffee? Depends. On what? On whether your letter is good news. He took a sip. It was strong enough to turn a bad morning into an honest one. It's directions, he said. West. Everything important is either uphill or west, she said. Why west? Sunsets, she said. Ends. Beginnings that wear the clothes of ends. He finished the cup and left coins he couldn't afford. He watched his hand do it like it belonged to a person who trusted the world. The kids were outside throwing cards against a wall, picking them up and throwing them again. The driver leaned by the bus, watching the horizon as if the horizon owed him an apology. Sarah climbed back on. The watch pressed his leg. The bus eased into gear. The road agreed. He took the watch out again. He tried to hear the tick that wasn't there. He held it to his ear, to his throat, to the window. He felt foolish. He tucked it away. 2 hours passed in their quiet way. The sleeping woman woke. She looked at him. Is your name Sarah? She asked. Yes. She nodded like a prophecy had remembered itself. I once knew a man whose clock stopped at 3:17, she said. He died at that time on a Tuesday. He laughed when he told me the story. He said time wasn't the boss anymore. Is that true? Depends who you ask. She went back to sleep. The kids disembarked at a crossroads and ran toward a field like they were late to something sacred. The bus became only Sarah and the driver. Why me? Sarah asked. The driver adjusted the mirror. Because you kept walking, he said. Most folks sit down and call the floor a chair. You stood up and called it a floor. They drove until clouds gathered and made the world a shade deeper. Rain started as a dare, then followed through. The road darkened. Dust turned to paste. A sign appeared out of the wet. It said Pilgrim in letters that needed paint. The bus eased onto a shoulder. The driver opened the door. End of the line for today, he said. Pilgrim, Sarah said. Sure looks that way. What now? You meet who you're supposed to meet, the driver said. You show him the watch. Who? You'll know. Sarah stepped down into rain that felt like news. The bus door sighed and closed. The bus idled, then pulled away as if it had already forgotten him. He stood by the sign with the letter in his wallet and the watch in his pocket and no plan except west. The road into town was more mud than memory. He walked it. Houses appeared, small and serious. A dog barked once at nothing, then twice at him. He passed a store that sold feed and fishing line. He passed a church whose bell rope hung frayed like a nerve. He turned a corner and saw a man on a bench under a corrugated roof. The man had shoulders like a bridge and hands that had done things. He looked up with a slow, precise motion that made the air pay attention. You're late. the man said. Sarah stopped. So I've heard. The man held out his palm. Let's have it. The letter? The time, the man said. Sarah pulled out the watch. The man took it carefully as if it had already broken a second thing after itself. He pressed the back against his ear. He nodded. It's almost 3:17, the man said. Sarah frowned. It's always 3:17, the man shook his head. Not today, he said. Listen. Sarah listened. Tick. It ticked once. Then again. The sound was not loud. It was like a room that had held its breath and decided to live. The man handed the watch back. You feel that? He asked. Feel what? Choice, the man said. It just arrived. Sarah stared. The second hand moved in a small arc that felt like a door. Who are you? Sarah asked. Someone who woke up the same way, the man said. Different object. Same hunger. What object? A suitcase full of dirt, the man said. Long story. What now? Now you go west when it stops, the man said. Until then you go where it points. It points? Everything points when it's time, the man said. He stood. Eat. Sleep. When it stops, go to the station and ask for a ticket to a city that borrows your name. Sarah slept in a room over a bar. The pillow smelled of hops and arguments. He dreamed that the watch ticked inside his chest and changed his blood's direction. In the morning, he went to the station. The clerk behind the glass had hair like a lighthouse in a storm. Ticket, Sarah said. To the city that borrows my name. The clerk did not laugh. He slid a schedule across. He tapped a line with his pen. James City, he said. 3 hours by rail if the rail remembers how? That's a joke? It's a place, the clerk said. Every place is half joke. Sarah paid with the last bills from the landlord deposit he had not told the truth about. The wallet felt like a throat cleared of words. He sat on a bench and watched pigeons try to interpret the platform. The train came with a sigh like a man loosening his tie. He boarded. The car smelled of coffee and old paper. He found a seat by the door. A woman with a briefcase sat across from him and arranged her face into neutrality. He checked the watch. 3:12, it moved. It was ahead of him now, dragging him like a quiet tide. He held it in his palm and felt a small vibration each second, the lightest tap, as if the world kept touching his skin to remind itself they were in this together. James City arrived in a drizzle. The tracks cut through warehouses with eyes closed. He stepped onto the platform and felt something like a soft argument in the air. He walked until the station fell behind him and the city stepped closer. Street signs said names he had heard in other mouths. He asked the watch where to go. This felt foolish, but he did it anyway. He turned the watch slowly as if it were a compass with a secret. The second hand seemed to pull toward a narrow street. He followed. The narrow street led to a door without a number. The door had a scar across it. He knocked, nothing. He tried the knob. It turned. Inside a hallway. At the end, a light. He moved down the hall, speaking softly to his shoes. The light pooled under a door with frosted glass. He pushed it open. A room, a desk, a man with a hat. Not on his head but hanging from a nail like a warning. The man's back was to him. On the desk, a box. On the box, a small card. The man turned. He had a face that looked borrowed. You came, he said. I followed my watch. Good, the man said. He pointed to the box. That's for you. From who? From what you think you want, the man said. Sarah opened the box. Inside lay an empty wallet. He laughed without joy. I already have one, he said. The man nodded. This one isn't empty the same way. What does that mean? Put your own wallet into it, the man said. Sarah set his empty wallet into the larger empty wallet. The two sat together like nested questions. He felt ridiculous. Then he felt something move. Not in the wallets. In himself, he lifted them. They had weight now. He opened the outer one. Inside was a slip of paper, small and clean. He unfolded it. A map of the city, a dot, an X, a circle around both, a note. Find what you never lost. He looked up. What is this? A debt collection, the man said. The city collects what people forget they still have. What did I forget? We'll see, the man said. Sarah left the building with the new empty wallet and his old empty wallet living together. He followed the map. The city watched him. The rain became deliberate. He reached the corner marked by the dot. It was a barber shop. He went in. The bell over the door rang like a small, clear mind. A barber with hands like polished wood looked up. "Beard?" he asked. "Memory," Sarah said. The barber pointed to a chair. "Sit." He sat. The barber spread a white cloth. He tucked it at Sarah's neck. He adjusted the angle of the chair so that Sarah looked at a stained tin ceiling. The barber did not touch a blade. He spoke. "You were 8, he said. Your father took you to a river. He taught you to throw a rock so it skipped. He said, 'The trick is to want the water to keep it.' You said, 'What does the water want?' He said, 'Practice.'" Sarah's mouth went dry. "How do you know that?" he asked. The barber used a brush to dust nothing. "This city borrows your name to collect your lost minutes," he said. "We keep them until you ask." Sarah closed his eyes. He could see the river. He could smell the wet iron of it. His father's hand on his shoulder. The watch heavy in his small pocket. 3:17 on a weekday in a life that still believed in Saturdays. "Why did he leave?" Sarah whispered. "When a man breaks, sometimes he thinks he's a plate and the floor is safer than the table," the barber said. "He left a watch. And you carried it like a court order," the barber said. The watch was warm now. The tick was stronger. He felt it in his throat. The barber stepped back. He untucked the cloth and shook it as if he had shaved something you couldn't see. "You can go," the barber said. "You found one of your minutes. Keep walking west when it stops." Sarah stood. He paid with thanks. The barber took it like a currency the world undervalues. Sarah stepped outside. The rain had paused. A thin light made the city almost kind. He turned the corner to follow the X on the map. A car crawled from the curb and shadowed him. Windows tinted. Engine a quiet animal. It followed 1 block, 2, 3, he slowed. It slowed, he stopped. It stopped, he put his hand on the watch. The car door opened. A man stepped out first. He had a coat that made a point. 2 others followed. They seemed like a single idea repeated. The first man smiled like a handshake you couldn't escape. "Mr. James," he said. Sarah didn't answer. "We'll take the watch now," the man said. "Why?" "Because meaning is expensive," the man said. "Someone has to own the store." "It's broken," Sarah said. The man tilted his head. "Not today." Sarah looked down. 3:16, the hand was moving toward a moment. "Who are you?" Sarah asked. "Collectors," the man said. "We collect misplaced time." "Very profitable." "Very polite, please." "No," Sarah said. The man sighed as if he had hoped for a shorter day. He gestured. The 2 moved forward. Their hands were careful, not violent yet, as if they preferred compliance to noise. Sarah turned. He ran. The street did not agree with his shoes. He heard the car roll forward like a low opinion. He cut into an alley that smelled like rust teaching damp to be patient. A chain-link fence stood across his path. He jumped, his jeans caught. He tore free. He landed and kept moving. He broke out onto a construction lot. Dust had gathered under everything. The sky opened a little and threw light across steel ribs and piles of sand. He felt the watch like a hot coin. He cut between stacks of lumber. He heard footsteps. Calm. Measured, as if the men walked around problems more than through them. He ducked into a corrugated tunnel of sheet metal propped like a half-made decision. It was stifling. He crawled. On the other side, a low cinder-block building hunched by the fence. A garage door half open. Inside, the smell of oil and insight. A woman in coveralls looked up from an engine. She wiped her hands on a red rag and saw a person who needed a verb. "Hide," she said, and kicked a crate toward a shadow space beneath a workbench. He slid under just as the first man's shoes appeared outside. "Seen a guy come through?" the man asked. "What kind of guy?" she said. "The kind who runs from conversations." She shrugged. "Most men, silence stretched like a cable." The woman turned back to the engine and adjusted a bolt as if tightening the mood. "You mind if we look?" the man asked. "I do," she said. He laughed softly. "Why is that?" "Because your shoes are too clean," she said. "And your questions are too old." Sarah held his breath. The watch ticked. He wanted to slap it quiet. He pressed it into his palm until he thought he would push the second hand through the face. "Listen," the man said beyond the bench. "We're trying to avoid trouble." "Same," she said. "That's why I keep a wrench." A pause. Then the soft retreat of leather soles. The car door. The engine gone. "Out," the woman said. He slid out. She studied him like a riddle worth the time. "You carry trouble in your pocket," she said. "A watch. Who wants it?" "Collectors of time." She nodded as if she had known all along there were people like that. You need to leave the city, she said. You need a road that knows dust. I have one, he said. You have an idea of one, she said. Different, he looked down. The watch said 3:17. The second hand hit the 12 and stopped. The silence after felt like someone closing a book. It stopped, he said. She tossed him the red rag. Then it's west, she said. He wiped sweat off his face and left a dark stamp on the cloth as if his fear had a color. He folded the rag and handed it back. She shook her head. Keep it. You'll need something that already knows hands, he smiled. It felt new. Thank you, he said. You'll pay me back if you learn something worth hearing, she said. He went to the station. He bought a ticket with a card he would have to explain later. The train fled the city like a dog off a chain.